employers can do a lot by shifting from minimizing liabilities to creating a culture of respect. And that requires not only employers, but colleagues or coworkers to be part of it. We have found that employers will need a wide range of supports, activities that they need to integrate into their workplace. And I'm gonna leave you with 3 words. If I can ask you for anything, remember these 3 words when you leave today. And if you're an employer or a coworker, APR. A for accountability, P for prevention, and R for response systems. And I'm going to illustrate them and then maybe elaborate a little bit more on your question. Accountability, it's all about assessment. I'm gonna ask a question I don't want you to answer to anybody, just to yourself. Assessment under accountability. As an employer, how well have you expressed your commitment to support victims of IPV? Second letter, P, remember APR. P, prevention. This is all about policies and procedures. Do you have clear and comprehensive policies and procedures? Have you had your employees, or as a coworker, have you been educated on your policies and procedures? And when was the last time your staff or you were trained on bystander intervention, or how safely to challenge harmful behavior? Do you or your employees know the role of observers to create a sense of collective responsibility? And response systems, remember they are? This is all about reporting and responding to complaints. Every workplace is different, and with the pandemic, we are now dealing with different workplaces. There are hybrid workplaces, there are only virtual workplaces. So your response systems have to respond to your reality and your workplace. Now, if I lived in a perfect world, and if I would ask for the perfect system, there's one key question I would ask in terms of our workplace's response system, and that is that it should empower employees by providing informed support services. What do I need? You're gonna have to investigate a complaint or a disclosure. When you do that, or while you do that, please make sure you understand the general effects of trauma. Showing empathy over judgment, it's so important. Foster safety. Be responsive to cultural, historical, and gender inclusion.
Consent is obviously deeply intertwined with issues of gender-based violence. So can you talk a little bit about where we are in understanding consent and how the justice system treats that, and how we as a society kind of treat those issues of consent?
There's a real disconnect, I think, between what the law says and what people generally understand to be consent and the parameters and requirements of consent. And one of the statistics that's cited in the article that was mentioned today in the Toronto Star is a foundation survey from a couple of weeks ago that found that 55% of people don't fully understand the definition of consent. And I think everyone in this room and on this Zoom call will understand how problematic that is, particularly among young people. And I think it speaks to the need for a really strong education on healthy relationships, on consent, on sex, because otherwise young people are learning about what consent means and what sexual norms are from cultural places that don't reflect that only yes means yes. We see it in movies, even in conversations among youth. We need to really invest in prevention and education so that folks understand from a very early age exactly what the parameters of consent are. Now, that's the public education and general understanding issue. Just because we have a strong and robust definition of consent in the law in Canada does not mean that we have a legal system, criminal system that does a really good job of dealing with violations of consent, also known as sexual assault. And in my view, it's because it's not built to center the needs and healing and accountability desires of survivors. It's a system that asks survivors to go and tell their story to strangers, report it to the police, to tell their story again and their experience again to the Crown, to, if it gets to this point, participate in a trial where they share this intimate violation in front of a courtroom, again, full of strangers. And they're subjected to cross-examination by defense counsel, who will often try to suggest they're misremembering, making it up. Did they do something to invite it? Were they wearing something in particular? And those are still things that come up in questioning, in cross-examination. So you can just sort of tell from that partial description of what survivors need to go through in the criminal system that it's not built for them. So this is one of the reasons why LEAF is really interested in doing work right now to explore alternatives to the criminal legal system, to give further choices to survivors on how they can deal with the assault they've experienced and center their own healing and advance their own vision of accountability. And specifically, we're talking about restorative justice and transformative justice options, which are really grounded in community, and in particular, Indigenous, Black, trans, and queer communities have been doing this for decades, and we're really interested in understanding that better and promoting that as an alternative for survivors.
Paulette, you could tell us a little bit about how gender-based violence plays out differently for different people, depending upon some of these intersecting kind of identities that we've been talking about.
So intersectionality is a critical component of how we do work. It's always been the way that we should work, no matter what we're doing. But within this sector that we occupy, the space that we've been working with, where I've been working with for decades, it's always been a call from racialized, Indigenous, LGBTQ folks whose identity matters in multiple ways, that they have always been saying, this, what you're doing doesn't serve me well. And quite possibly, a lot of the folks that we've been serving have fallen through the cracks, right? And that's for reasons that's no different from any other sector, right? It could be colonialism, it could be racism, it could be all kinds of isms that get in the way of serving people well. And so being able to work through and view the people that you're working with through that intersectional lens, understanding the experiences through which they come to you for service, but also them standing at the intersection of the various identities, which could be race and gender and sexual identity and ability or disability. All of that matters in serving people well. And so our sector for decades have missed the mark. We've heard that through a number of sources, most recently through the Battered Women Support Services, who just released a report called The Color of Violence. And this particular kind of data gathering has been a missing within the sector, where you're looking at the experiences of racialized folks who say that they're not being served well. And as a result of that, they are not participating or opting out of the services we're providing. It could be because they're afraid that the police will be called if they approach us and tell their story. It could be because no one in that service program or organization or someone that's gathering their information actually looks like them, sound like them, right? So how are they able to understand that experience of and be able to walk in their shoes? Or it could be that there is discrimination, systemic discrimination that exists. And so the systems that we put folks through in order to access helping service, supportive service, could be and end up being a real barrier.